I see a lot of financial institutions sort of behind a little bit on their cloud journey in some cases. And, um, I think when you look at the cloud, right, the best way that I like to describe it is it's basically one big application that sits on top of somebody else's infrastructure. And you use, whether it's AWS or Azure or GCP, you use their web application to orchestrate somebody else's infrastructure. And, you know, that shared responsibility model that is now being applied at the cloud level, I think is a unique paradigm for a lot of institutions that they're taking some time to get used to. Um, I also feel like, and tell me if you have these same thoughts, Matt, especially in the cloud journey, in the cloud security journey, I feel like there's just not enough professionals, cybersecurity professionals, risk professionals that understand the cloud, right? Or have experience working with the cloud. Um, Heck, I mean, it's hard enough to keep up with all of the changes that AWS makes on a weekly basis. I feel like there's a new AWS cloud tool every week. Um, do you agree with that? Are you seeing some of those same challenges at some of the organizations you work with?
Yeah, I'm fortunate to talk with a lot of the CISOs of our largest banks on a regular basis, and inevitably the conversation will talk focus on people, and of course everyone is experiencing resource challenges. Um, and in terms of getting cloud expertise, it's interesting, Dan, because we do see there's a whole new generation of cloud trained professionals that are coming up. There's a lot of great training out there. The cloud service providers themselves, I think, are providing a lot of terrific training.
Yeah.
There also, we've seen efforts from the cloud service providers to make things easier and more transparent with regards to implementing security controls, doing security monitoring on, say, cloud containers, those things. But it's kind of a transitionary period that we're going through because you have a lot of people who are trained, but not many people have hands-on operational experience in terms of actually maintaining critical applications on the cloud platform, in terms of experience with actually dealing with a cyber incident
Yeah.
cloud platform, which can take a whole different direction in terms of how you respond to a cloud data breach or a cloud denial of service attack versus one on your own systems. So you have that. And then, Dan, there's another area too that I know CISOs are concerned about, and that is, the impression that when you go to the cloud, it's just one cloud. The reality is, it's really a lot of different things happening. You've probably heard about hybrid cloud architectures. I think a lot of banks are looking at or considering hybrid, where they keep some things on premise, but still some things in the cloud.
Yeah.
How do you manage between those two interconnected environments? And then when you talk about third-party vendors, well, a lot of third-party vendors are also migrating to the cloud. In fact, one of the things that we monitor closely, Dan, is fourth-party risk, making sure that if you have core banking services or something critical outsourced to a third party, well, who's that third party depending upon? And just making sure that the banks are aware in terms of that risk. It's been interesting. We've been doing these connect the doc exercises, which has helped us identify new areas of concentration of risk of third parties, concentrating, their platforms and services on just a few providers behind the scenes. And of course, things get even more complex too because of interconnectivity. The banking ecosystem, banks are more interconnected than ever between each other. We're seeing more and more of these fintechs now coming up, providing, I think, point services to customers and to banks and all. And so it's a lot of complexity in terms of how things are interconnecting over the internet, where you argue, say, 20 years ago, everything was just in one data center and there was really no external connections per se. So I think that goes back to people, finding people who have the ability to deal with that kind of complexity, to get the big picture, to understand risk from a big picture, and then come up with effective risk management solutions. It's challenging, I think, to find that kind of talent.